Phoneybeetlemaniacxs here, and I've got a bit of man flu, so I do apologise if my voice is a bit croaky. But Raoul has done a video that I swear is the most uneducated commentary on the New Testament I've heard. And consider this is YouTube and the internet, that is saying something. Now, Raoul, you accuse the person who was doing the Bible commentary of false equivocation, which he wasn't. He was comparing across types. Whenever you're talking about a historical document, it doesn't matter whether it's factual or fictional, it's still what do we have on the originals? What replications do we have of originals? Why do those replications exist? Is there a reason that one version of the book is more valid than the other? So you know that applies to Raoul because he doesn't understand how people actually do biblical scholarship. He seems to think that people just go, I like that one, and seems to think that's the way that biblical scholarship works. It doesn't. The way it works, Raoul, and this may set you for real life, is that people look at this weird thing called evidence. Like, for example, they'll look at the climate, they'll look at the people who wrote it. Is a reason that a certain reading might be popular in that certain part of the world? Is there a reason that a certain reading might exist? Is there a reason that the scripture would be better preserved? Again, Raoul doesn't understand here this stuff that I just said. Now, New Testament overall. If you don't understand that the New Testament comes from Second Temple Judaism, you don't understand the New Testament. And this is true for Raoul and anybody else who posits that Constantine or anybody else was involved in the construction or whatever of the Bible. The Bible is a product of its time, which is Second Temple Judaism, and if you don't understand that, you don't understand the New Testament. It's a simple fact, and it's something that Raoul unfortunately doesn't get. Now, what is Second Temple Judaism? You would ask, I'm glad you did. I've talked about this before, but for the people who are probably new to my channel and people out there who are new to the subjects, I'll go over it a little bit. Now, we have the first temple, which was destroyed when the Babylonians took over. They destroyed the first temple. The Jews came back, built a second temple, so that is Second Temple Judaism, and it was believed that would be destroyed as well because people would turn away from God, and the first time that happened, the first temple was destroyed. So anything that Jesus is talking about, he's talking about in relation to Second Temple Judaism, the fact that the Pharisees had turned away from God, the fact that they were now trying to endorse some sort of paganism, and that and stuff like that, really. Now, of course, Raoul has no understanding that is the case of historical understanding of the New Testament. He talks about Acts, the book of Acts, and he says that there isn't a single that all the scholars say it is fiction. No, that isn't what they say. That isn't what they say, Raoul, at all. They actually say, if you actually read a scholarship style and not just rely on the words of Robert Price, who's a known liar and a known forger, and a known quote miner as well, is that the current scholarship is that the book of Acts is more impartial than Paul's old epistles. It was probably less likely written by the person who wrote Luke. Yeah. So, what scholarship is this based on? Robert Price. The same Robert Price who repeats the lies about Jesus being coming from pagan mythology, which has been defeated. The same Robert Price who was thrown out of a legitimate university and now works at some sort of free thought cult sort of centre. The same Robert Price who hasn't provided a single source for any of this that doesn't come from the 19th century. The same Robert Price who hasn't written a peer-reviewed paper in over 2 decades. No, sorry, over 3 decades. I do apologise for that. The same Robert Price who should not be considered an academic by anybody ever. that Robert Price. You're going by him. You're not going by legitimate skeptic. There are legitimate skeptics out there. For example, Bart Ehrman, or John Dominic Crossan, or Marcus Borg, or I could name you a ton of people who are skeptical about the New Testament. But of course, you don't name them, because they all disagree with the argument you just put forward. So you have to go to the pseudo-scholars. And I go to a website which is called www.christianitydisproven.com. Now, any website that's called www.christianitydisproven.com will be very biased and very unscholarly. It'll be full of people, let's call them pseudo-scholars and conspiracy nuts, who will be all about, like, Christianity was created by lizard people in the 3rd century to keep the masses in check. That's basically the level of discourse that's on ChristianityDisproven.com. There is no academia, there is no legitimate argument, there is no sort of basis for this argument whatsoever. And this is not me just spewing nonsense. I mean, they don't list any scholarly source, because they're not interested in scholarly sources. They're not interested in any sort of discussion. They're interested in producing their agenda. And again, they're not the only ones guilty of this. There are Christian websites out there that do the same, like, for example, Answering Genesis, Creation Today, other websites like that aren't interested in any sort of, rational discussion. They're interested in forcing whatever BS they're into that day. So Raoul, you say that the Book of Acts is fiction. Okay. Then you go on to say that Constantine and the Church created the Bible. Which Bible? Which text? What are you talking about? Which textual type was created at? Are you talking about the Council of Nicaea, too, about the Roman Church? Which textual type was created by, quote unquote, Constantine, or written by Constantine, or compiled? You weren't very clear about this. Are you talking about compiled? What's about written? Are you talking about transliterated? What are you talking about? There's no evidence of this whatsoever. Constantine had nothing to do with the compilation, writing, or anything transliteration of the Hebrew-Greek text at all. And there's no evidence of it. It wasn't something that the Council of Nicaea was involved with, or anything that Constantine himself endorsed or promoted. He never ordered a Bible to be written or compiled or anything like that. It is a fiction placed over by people who are idiots. People who don't understand there is a paper trail that we can follow. It comes nowhere close to Constantine. Like, for example, there was a Bible compiled just before the Council of Nicaea, so the Council of Nicaea didn't need to be compiled. It was done by certain other people. There's also the Byzantine text, there's the Alexandrian text, but there was always a Nicene text. I'd love to read it. There's the Corinthian text. This is what you get when you get somebody who thinks that Dan Brown is a legitimate source. And again, you can look at people like Bart Ehrman who will agree with every word that I just said. That Constantine did not order a Bible, was not involved with the compilation of any Bible. The church certainly wasn't. The Bible was put together before Rome as a church really got together. It was like the formation of Rome the Roman Church was getting together. But it wasn't behind the Bible. That was done by a single individual. So you have no understanding of historical history whatsoever, and understanding of the processes that brought us what we consider now the Bible. You don't understand different texts, like, for example, the Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Vaticanus. If you don't understand them, you don't really be talking about the scripture. And these are things that both skeptics and Christians alike both accept as things you just basically have to know before talking about textual types. And when you talk about, there are forgeries in the Bible. Like, for example, Hebrews is thought to be a forgery of Paul. But I've never heard Acts being called a forgery or fiction or anything like that. I've always heard people say that it's more impartial than part-on letters. So I'd like you to, Raoul, to present a cogent case, and not based upon Robert Price, not based upon Richard Carrier, the Arturius, or any of these pseudo scholars, but produced by actual academic scholars who've been printed in the paper in at least the last couple of years. That thinks this. Because if Robert Price is correct, then you should be able to present it without even looking. And I don't mean from Google Books where you can quote it. I mean an actual text like from something like JSTOR or the University of Chicago Press, or an actual academic book that I can have a look at. I'd love to have a look at it. I really would. But you have nothing that backs up this claim at all. And I think it's unfortunate that, well, you think yourself to be an intellectual when it comes to the Bible, and you're not. You've said something about the New Testament that is just randomly false, and it isn't a matter of being Christian or atheist, it's just the fact that the facts don't back up what you think. So anyway, I look forward to your response. This is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, Phoney Dreams Working True, out.